Welcome Jan Gustafsson to a recap of the third round of the GRENKE Chess Classic. The now completely empty playing hall.
It's strange, doesn't it?
Yes.
Where did all the people go?
I don't know. I think they went back home, But we'll see how many people will show up for the fourth round. But let's go back to the third round. A lot of spectacular games, I think. Also the draws that was a bit under the radar was, for example, Vajela Graf against Naidic. Perhaps the most spectacular game of the round. But
hard to say. There was a strange game. It was a classical Berlin endgame, which we don't see that often nowadays, because normally white plays some sidelines. But Maxime made a very serious attempt to get an advantage, and he did, it looked like, but just when it seemed like he had a positional edge, things got completely out of hand, and Maxime first sacrificed a piece and then later another exchange. So he was playing a rook down at some point, but had a lot of initiative because of the black passive pieces. And I thought maybe he's just calculated everything and he's seen this as winning. In the end, it didn't turn out that way, and the game ended in a perpetual check with Naidic defending, from what I could tell, very, very well. And Maxime even having to be careful not to lose the game, but it was a very spectacular fight, worth checking out for sure.
Another draw, we had Aronian against Vallejo, another draw. But can you tell me about that game?
I think similar things apply actually. It was the French defense, and surprisingly a line that is a bit of a sideline that we would also see until the 12th move in the game Svidler versus Meyer in the same round. It's always strange if you see a sideline in two different games popping up. But it makes sense because the lower rated players in these games, Vallejo and Meyer, they chose a very forcing line where white is forced to sacrifice a pawn and go for very sharp complications. And often if this line comes as a surprise, black will be the one who prepared it before the game and who will be better prepared. And it felt a bit like that happened maybe in this Levon-Vallejo game, where Levon spent some time out of the opening, and then one key position he played this move, I think queen to e3, where everybody had castle before that. And after that the play continued to be incredibly sharp and a lot of variations to be calculated. I don't think anybody did anything very wrong. It felt like they both played well and found their way through the complications. And then, as it often happens, the game ends with perpetual check, just like the Naidic game. So another draw, but two very fun games, those two.
You just mentioned again Svidler against Meyer. Svidler won again, now in the lead of the tournament. He's surprised himself. He said it's mystifying to him, he said, that he is leading the tournament right now, co-leading the tournament.
Yeah, Peter is always a little self-deprecating, humble, and he also mentioned that he's been preparing for the games, and maybe, after all, getting some help in preparing for the games has been helping him here. In this particular game, yeah, I think he was surprised by the opening played by Georg, who normally plays the Rubinstein French with d takes e4, a different version of the French. And for this game he chose a sideline of a sideline, because in this line they played, Vallejo played, I think on move 12, the move a6, which is the main branch of this, and Meyer played the very rare bishop to b4. Svidler had a long thing, but he also showed his class there in a dynamic position, out of book, pawn down, found a way to put pressure on Georg Meyer. And in the end, just when it seemed like Meyer was very close to making a draw, having defended well, then Svidler found one more way to put pressure, starting with his move g3 and then hunting the black king, which, while I was doing commentary, I thought the king is safe and this will end in a draw. And then you look 5 moves later, the king has been checkmated. So Svidler showed the power of an initiative with these opposite color bishops, and just what a strong player he is. 2.5 out of 3. Hats off to him.
Yeah, good start for him. Another game that was decided was Keimer against Caruana. It was not an easy game for Caruana. It looked like a very good game from Vincent, and he was almost winning, Caruana said after the game.
Yeah, that was a strange one. I think Caruana will be unhappy with his opening choice. It's the usual situation. The favorite, in this case Caruana with black, tries to play something a little offbeat, trying to surprise Keimer. But as we saw from Peter Leko's commentary, who's Keimer's coach, they knew this line extremely well and a lot of details there. And then Caruana soon had a choice between playing a position with d takes c4 instead of b6 in the opening, where he might make a draw with best play, but he has absolutely no winning chances, or playing what he did, the move b6, which accepts a strategically much worse position, then I'm not sure if Keimer played the whole game extremely well. I haven't checked it with the computer, but I thought outside of the opening with his b6, he made some somewhat strange choices, allowing Caruana to get a harmonious position, to get in c5, get knight d8, knight e6. I thought maybe if instead of queen c2, he just goes knight c3, c takes d5, b4. He could have put even more pressure. But then we've seen a bit of a similar story like in his game versus Carlsen. He plays very well in the early middle game between moves 20 and 30. And just when he was close to actually getting a serious advantage, or maybe a winning advantage, he lost the threat. I think concretely in this game it was this move way down the stretch. If you guys want to replay it, rook to f1. He moved this rook away from c1 where it kept an eye on the c-pawn. And after rook f1, c3, Caruana was back in business. Well, instead of rook f1, he had played queen f4, pointed out by Fabiano, just controlling everything, and then slowly king g2, rook h1. It looked like might just be a winning attack for white. So yeah, another tough lesson for Vincent after he got another good position. But 0 out of 3, maybe the opponents now will become not easy, but a little easier than Carlsen, Anand, Caruana. I think he's playing Neidich and Meyer next, and we'll see if he can get on the scoreboard.
Yes, let's hope so for Vincent. Let's go to the last game of the round. Another fun game, I think, and a very exciting one. Magnus Carlsen against Vishy Anand, evergreen in modern chess.
Yeah, that was a strange one. Magnus has already beaten Vishy twice with the white pieces in this year, in 2019. He beat him with one e4 in Vaikanzé, then with one d4 in, I believe, Shamkir. And this time he played one c4, which he had also used during the World Championship match. And somehow, outside of the opening, around move 12, Vishy committed a serious inaccuracy. Played this move c6 instead of, I think, knight c5, knight fd7, as he himself mentioned, and got a horrible position strategically, allowing this f4, f5 expansion by Magnus. And frankly, I thought it was a matter of time until Vishy would collapse such a passive position against Magnus Carlsen. But then Anand went to show his class and his skill defending with very limited space, but he didn't give an edge, coordinated his pieces as well as he could. And Magnus did not find an easy way through, so he had to keep maneuvering and looking for chances. And that brings us to the position we have on the board, where we enter a very critical phase of this game.